Good evening. I now call the March 4th, 2020 meeting of the Hampton School Board to order. Ms. Bowers, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Henry?
Here.
Mr. Kilgore?
Here.
Dr. Mason?
Here.
Mr. Samuels?
Present.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Dr. Woodhouse?
Here.
Ms. Cherry?
Here. Please let the record reflect that all board members are present, including our student liaison, Paul Karnick. As the Phoebus High School Junior ROTC prepares to present the colors, I would ask everyone to please stand.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry! Cut! Ready? Cut! Order! Cut! Ready? Sweep! Ready, cut, fire, up!
In recognition of Read Across America Week and to acknowledge the importance of reading in our lives, I share with you Open a Book by Jane Basquill. Open a book and you will find people and places of every kind. Open a book and you can be anything that you want to be. Open a book and you can share wondrous worlds you find in there. Open a book and I will too. You read to me and I'll read to you. And a special congratulations to Dr. Smith for being a National Superintendent of the Year finalist. Thank you.
Thank you, and please be seated. First of all, a special thank you to the JROTC from Phoebus High School. The officer leading that actually is the student liaison as well, Joy Bowers. So we are very pleased that he had a different role tonight, but performed it just as well. Also, I'm going to turn it over to our student liaison, Paul Karnick, who is going to introduce the wonderful speaker we just had.
So thank you to Miss Stevie Brown. She's joining us tonight from Forest Elementary School. That was a great invocation you read. So Stevie, what grade are you in currently?
I'm in the 4th grade.
And what is your favorite subject in school?
Reading.
Excellent. And what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a professional dancer.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And if there are any parents and administrators supporting Stevie tonight, I would invite you to please stand and be recognized.
Thank you all for sharing Stevie with us tonight. And Dr. Smith, I think that's your first official congratulations of the night.
Absolutely.
From a student. How appropriate.
Thank you so much, Stevie.
Moving on with tonight's agenda, I go to item 1.04, adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
It has been properly moved by Mr. Kilgore and seconded by Ms. Henry that we approve tonight's agenda as presented. Is there any discussion from board members? Hearing none, Ms. Bowers, would you please call for the vote?
Ms. Henry?
Aye.
Mr. Kilgore?
Aye.
Dr. Mason?
Aye.
Mr. Samuels?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Dr. Woodhouse?
Aye.
Ms. Cherry?
Aye. Motion carries. The next item of business is recognitions, and I'd like to call on Ms. Kelly Gorel, our Executive Director for Public Relations and Marketing, and I will be joining her on the stage. Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Tonight we are here to honor someone very, very remarkable, and that's our own Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jeffrey Smith. We are so pleased to have so many of you here tonight to honor Dr. Smith and to recognize him because he certainly does deserve it. We've got members of the Hampton City Schools family, as well as members of our city council. We have our mayor, Mayor Tuck. Would you raise your hand? We have Vice Mayor Jimmy Gray. We have Councilman Billy Hobbs. And we have Councilman Steve Brown.
And City Manager Mary Bunting was hoping to join us. She was on her way back from Richmond, but she said to please send her congratulations.
Absolutely.
And that she does apologize for not being here. So we are here tonight and so excited. Dr. Smith has had quite a journey over the past year. Specifically, it began last February of 2019 when Dr. Smith's fellow school superintendents from the 15 school divisions that comprise Region 2 selected him as the Region 2 Superintendent of the Year. His colleagues selected him to represent their group for his work building accessible pathways to future-ready learning in Hampton and for his leadership across the state and through Virginia Association of School Superintendents. This recognition made him eligible for the Virginia Superintendent of the Year, where he competed with the top superintendents of the 8 regions of Virginia. The application process was rigorous. The regional superintendents had to provide their administrative experiences, information on their school systems, professional growth, such as positions in professional organizations and examples of community leadership, professional development activities that they most recently participated in, as well as publications, articles, and presentations that they had provided. In addition, they had to go into great detail and explain a strategy that they have employed to close a system-level gap in the area of socioeconomic status, ethnicity, special education, or gender. They had to explain what they had done to clearly communicate to all constituents the purpose of their district, the future it is creating, and the indicators of progress that they are tracking. Applicants had to describe what they had done and the process they had used in their district to improve or change their teacher and principal evaluation system. And finally, they had to explain what action they had taken to continue to provide a quality education for their students in spite of funding shortages. So very rigorous, no small task. And I will say, in having the opportunity to review the application, it was the best application I've ever seen. And the work that Dr. Smith is in as far as community and presentations and publications, pages long. So very, very impressive.
Now, fast forward 3 months from the time of the regional recognition to May, when the Virginia Association of School Superintendents held their conference, their spring conference in Roanoke. Dr. Smith was in attendance, and all of us were back here in Hampton, anxiously awaiting the state superintendent announcement. And to no surprise to any of us, Dr. Smith was named the 2020 Virginia Superintendent of the Year, representing the 132 school divisions in the state of Virginia. And I always like to repeat that because it is amazing. Out of 132, he was #1 in the state.
Thank you.
by Miss Cherry. Yes, he was. And Dr. Smith was selected by a large group of individuals for that recognition. On that panel was the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, the presidents of the Virginia Board of Education, the Virginia Education Association, the Virginia Parent-Teacher Association, the Virginia School Boards Association, the Virginia Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, the Virginia Association of Elementary School Principals, the Virginia Association of Secondary School Principals, and the president-elect of the Virginia Association of School for his leadership for learning, communication, professionalism, and community involvement. So it was a large panel that made that selection. And we certainly agree with this experienced group of educators. They selected the right person to represent our state. So at this time, I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the screen as we share some of the photos from this part of his journey.
Now, as Virginia Superintendent of the Year, that meant that Dr. Smith was eligible for National Superintendent of the Year. So again, he participated in a very rigorous application process. However, this time, he also had to submit multiple artifacts with it, news articles, and a video about himself. And any of you know Dr. Smith, when you say video about himself, that's not what he wanted to do. But the poor staff, they cajoled him, and they put Dr. Smith through the ringer. They interviewed him in a school. They interviewed him at the Academy's Career Expo in front of hundreds of individuals. They even interviewed him standing on top of a van. Now, I know what you're thinking, the van wasn't moving, but we don't want to lose it. But the final product spotlighted the true passion of our superintendent, we know as Dr. Smith, and why he does what he does on behalf of young people. So again, I'm going to ask you to turn your attention to the screen to view the video that was submitted as part of his application process for National Superintendent of the Year.
I think we have a responsibility as educators to help young people to get to that place where they can give their absolute best. So what are you planning to do with this after you finish? We're about the future and preparing the future. And I have often said, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? When I was in kindergarten, I quite frankly did not like school. My life was impacted by poverty. I had a grandmother who was very caring, supportive, and provided for us all that she could. She looked to the school system to really do what she could not. And she realized that if we got a good education, that was a pathway out of poverty. I dealt with poverty and realized that we didn't have all of the other resources, but that teachers really made a difference in my life. I would really say my junior high school principal impacted my life at a very deep level, and I saw in him what we should see in every caring educator. Passion, hope for the future, a belief that we could do it, high expectations, and he was not willing to settle for anything but the best from us. For me, it's about the young people, and it is about what occurs in the classrooms on a daily basis. And I don't ever want to be out of touch with that. And if we have caring adults, teachers, who are on their game every day, if you're on your game every day with that teaching and learning, we can make a difference.
So we did put him through the ringer for that. We tried to get him to be as vulnerable as we could. My goal was to make him cry. I think I might have gotten a tear or two out of him, so I am going to tell him.
One out of me.
Maybe one. But that was to be able to sit down with our superintendent and ask those deep questions and just really, you know, we all know that what he does every day for us and for our students in this division, but to really hone in on why he does what he does. So thank you for allowing me that opportunity. And so the journey did continue. In December, Dr. Smith got a call from a representative of the American Association of School Superintendents that he had been selected as one of the final 4 finalists for the National Superintendent of the Year. He then traveled to Washington, D.C. at the beginning of January of this year and participated in an interview process where he was asked multiple questions by 6 panelists. He then joined the other 3 finalists, who are from Georgia, New York, and Oregon, for a 1-hour national press conference at the National Press Club, which was streamed live. I saw some of you all joining and watching our superintendent. And we are so proud of Dr. Smith, as he did an outstanding job during the press conference. So on the screen is going to be a very, very short excerpt of this 1-hour interview.
School division, we embody the understanding of equity when we say in collaboration with our community. We're going to focus on academic excellence for every child, every day, whatever it takes. And so for me, that is about access and also opportunities. And when we think of that, I think that you certainly have policies that we can put in place. There are practices. But I think we also have to really examine what I consider to be products, outcomes for young people around equity. It's one thing to have policies in place, it's another to have practices in place, but we should have goals and focus on specific outcome measures around equity as well.
So following that, this past February, Dr. Smith traveled to San Diego and attended the American Association of School Administrators National Conference on Education, which they have every year. There he was honored as one of the finalists for the National Superintendent of the Year. We are so excited, we are so very pleased, and we are so proud of him for having that honor, because he was selected as one of the top 4 among the 50 superintendents of the year who represent each of the 50 states in our nation. But you all know me long enough to know I like that drama effect. So here we go. When you think about it, he is one of the top 4 superintendents in the nation, and we have 13,500 public school superintendents across the United States of America. Now that's a major accomplishment, and he's right here in Hampton. Dr. Smith has worked so hard. He's worked extremely hard to put together a successful team.
Yes.
To put together a successful staff, all with having a clear and strategic vision for what we should look like. Our successes within this division have been, in a word, phenomenal. And our board, Dr. Smith, is very proud
Thank you.
to call you our superintendent, and the fact that you were recognized as a finalist, one of 4 out of 13,500. He certainly deserves it. Now, before we call Dr. Smith to the microphone, we'd like to show you one last video. And if everyone, once again, would please turn your attention to the screen.
Take two.
I love it.
We are HCS, Dr. Smith is great. Every child, every day, whatever it takes.
Thank you, Channel 46. That's where we are, first class. All right. American Idol, watch out. Dr. Smith, you're the man of the hour. Please join us at the microphone.
Let me start by saying, Madam Chair and members of the board, that I'm absolutely honored that you have taken time of this particular meeting to acknowledge really our great work together. We have and we continue to be on a powerful journey on behalf of young people. And I really believe in the collective sense that we're really creating and opening a world of possibilities and opportunities for our young people. I can't thank you enough for the leadership opportunity here in Hampton. This is our community, and the young people that we serve, they make up members of our family, and I'm inspired by what the future holds in terms of the great young people that we have and all that they're accomplishing. I want to start off with an awesome school board. Let's give our school board a hand. I am really so grateful for your leadership in terms of the governance, because you get it. You enable us to embody the mission of Hampton City Schools when we talk about academic excellence for every child, every day, whatever it takes. And so I'm honored to be able to work with you and to know that you care about this particular mission in such a powerful way. And we're fortunate to have leaders in our school division at the governance level like the Hampton City School Board. So thank you again for your leadership, and I'm honored to work alongside you. And you guys know that we don't travel this road alone. And I am inspired every day by what you bring to the table on a daily basis to really make positive things occur in the lives of our young people. Thank you so very much. If our young people, if we don't get them to school on time with transportation in terms of caring individuals who really greet them, and say good morning, and then late in the afternoons to say, have a great evening at home. We can't involve ourselves in this kind of mission and really accomplish what we need to without individuals at all levels. And so I know Mr. Wills is here. I want to thank you for your leadership and your team. In terms of transportation. And then I want to say in terms of school nutritional services, if we're not focusing on providing them balanced meals first thing in the morning and then lunch, and then beyond that, the afternoon and evening sessions that we have with young people to provide them with the nourishment that they need. And so Ms. Edwina and your staff, I want to thank you for your leadership. Now, this is when you're really going to get into trouble, right? Because I've already called out transportation and school nutritional services. So now I have to keep going. But I know that we have administrators who are present with us. And I want to thank all of our administrators, inclusive of our assistant principals and our principals and members at SAC and all that you do. Please stand, because I want to recognize you as well. Thank you for your leadership. And when you think about Stevie and what she embodied, and in terms of the support, the young people that we have a chance to work with on a daily basis, and the parents and guardians and all who really support us and who serve as partners, I'm grateful for that as well. But let me go further and say, when we think of the finance department and the fact that we need individuals who understand the mission and who are there to help facilitate that on behalf of young people, I'm grateful for your leadership. And so I know Miss Brittany Dortch, where you please stand so that we can recognize, and your members of the team as well, all over finance. Thank you. When you think of a mayor and vice mayor and city manager and all that they bring to the table to help support this mission to ensure that we are a top-notch school division, Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor and members of council, I want to say thank you, and certainly our city manager as well. Please stand so we can recognize you. And all of the members of the community who really work with us as exceptional partners on behalf of young people. I am so grateful for all of our partners, faith-based, business partners that we have. I'm grateful for the work that they're engaged in partnering with us, and I'm humbled by that as well. And so I want to say thank you, Miss Reeves. Sometimes, Miss Reeves and I, we go at it in a positive way to ensure that we're serving young people. Thank you, Ms. Reeves, for your leadership and keeping us. And thank you because of what you do in terms of ensuring that we are doing what we need to do to support our young people, and that we can have confidence because of what you're doing in your office on a daily basis. And so I want to say thank you so very much. I think I've covered everyone, Madam Chair and members of the board, but all of the support staff members, I'm grateful, and so forth. Let me also say that my wife is not here, and she's going to be really upset, although she was in San Diego with me, and she's going to say, you did not remind me to be here. I actually said to her that we had an important meeting at church, and I said, I need you to cover that for me. So she's going to be really upset to know that all you guys were here, and she was not here. So I'll ask for forgiveness. And technology. Let me say that the video... and all of the great things that they do in terms of channel 46, and they make the superintendent look great and sound great. They clean up all of the stuff that they said, well, no, I said, let's not play that particular part. Take that segment out. But again, thank you for your leadership and the power of your presence on a daily basis in terms of our mission as well. We're able to get this work accomplished because we're in it together on behalf of our young people, because if they are successful, then our community will succeed. Again, thank you. I'm honored to serve as your superintendent, and we're just at the beginning. We have not concluded this journey, but we're really at the beginning. And if you think you're tired now, just hang around for a little while. And we're going to continue this journey together. Again, thank you so very much. I'm honored that you have taken time out of your busy schedule to come and to honor me and to recognize me. But this is really about you, and this is really about our young people, the families, and this particular community. And I say that on a regular basis, that I get a chance to stand up front and to say and to speak and to represent Hampton City Schools. So will you kindly give yourselves a hand, because I'm grateful for you. Lisa, thank you for only putting out the best photos.
Well, I thought you might want to share your awards.
All right, Miss Bagley, thank you for keeping me straight. Let's see. So this was the bronze for State Superintendent 2020, Virginia Superintendent of the Year from the state. Received this also in terms of recognition from AASA. And so Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much. Silver, 2020 National Superintendent of the Year finalist, also from AASA. Thank you so very much. And the goal, every day, we're making it happen, whatever it takes. That's the goal. Let's do it. Now, a big shout out to the over 1,500 teachers that we have in the classroom on a daily basis. All right, so I'm really about to mess this moment up, okay? But you guys need to come up real quick, all right, Madam Chair? If it's okay, come on up so that we can do a photo together. So real quick, come on, come on.
Administrators, go.
Principals, assistant principals, here we go. All of our building representatives. And if we have teachers who are here, please come forward.
Come on up here, Mr. Wells. You all get the children to school so they can learn.
Got the wrong shoes on. Yeah, those are wrong shoes.
Miss Williams.
Hello, sir. Great. How about yourself? Doing good. Good to see you. This is going to be interesting.
take a picture myself.
How you gonna get all of them?
To have a sermon preached about her, but there you go. Now you know the feeling. Call about God and everybody. Okay, she's doing her job.
I do not say yes to everything. I say a lot of no's.
I had two assistant principals that would grab me by the wrist and take me in the office and say,
They're waiting for Trina, but we'll do this part. Kelly. I'm going to get fired as a doctor.
Thank you, members of the board. Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, for that moment.
Dr. Smith, that was well deserved, and I'm just excited because I Out of 13,500 school divisions in this in the United States, only 4 get to do this, and we got to do it here in Hampton.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
again for everything.
Thank you.
Okay, as we move along with the agenda, I'm going to pretend I'm not completely lost because I am just so excited about what just happened. How do you guys feel about that? And we're going to make it. Okay. We're going to item number 3, consent agenda, which consists of item 3.01, personnel report number 20-04, and 3.02, minutes of the school board meeting of February 5th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the consent agenda we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It has been properly moved by Ms. Henry and seconded by Mr. Samuels that we approve tonight's consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion from board members? Hearing none, Ms. Bowers, would you please call for the vote?
Mr. Kilgore?
Aye.
Dr. Mason?
Aye.
Mr. Samuels?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Dr. Woodhouse?
Aye.
Ms. Henry?
Aye.
Ms. Cherry?
Aye. Motion carries. The next item of business is number 4, superintendent and staff reports. And for that, I'll turn it over to our superintendent of schools, Dr. Jeffrey Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. At this particular time, I would just make a request that if we could start with the 2020-2021 school calendar and the 2021 and 2022 planning calendar as the first order of business for the superintendent and staff reports, and then we'll move into the superintendent's proposed budget.
That would be fine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Haynes.
Good evening, Madam Chair Cherry, Vice Chair Kilgore, school board members, Dr. Smith, members of the Hampton community. Tonight we're pleased to present to you the proposed 2021 calendar and the working draft of planning calendar for 21-22. Tonight I have with me Melissa Powell-Riedel, who is a long-standing member of the calendar committee, current teacher at Burbank Elementary School, home of the Bulldogs, and of course, Ms. Kate Maxlow, our Director of Innovation and Professional Learning, was also our calendar work team facilitator in-house for Hampton City Schools and serves as Hampton City Schools representative for the regional calendar. I have been in the system for quite some time and recognize when you get on committees such as this, it's a difficult time to It's difficult to try to pass the torch. I tried to do that, but the National Superintendent of the Year finalist will not allow me to do so. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Powell-Riedel to move forward with the presentation of the recommended calendars.
Thank you.
Are you doing clicker? Sorry. I will wait just one moment. If you'll bear with me, the calendar did not get, I don't think it got loaded. So I'm going to see if I can load it real quickly.
Okay, I think while Ms. Bowers is loading the calendar, Dr. Haynes, I'm sure you'd like to talk to us a little bit about the wonderful work and how exhilarating it is for you.
Oh, Mrs. Cherry, I can do better than that. I can tell Dr. Haynes that he's lucky that he's on this lifetime committee of successful people, because there was a time when assistant superintendents and anyone else that was ever asked to be on this committee would give away their firstborn child or almost anything else they could to not serve on the committee, because the calendar committee did such a, shall we say, controversial job that people got thrown rocks at practically for presenting the calendar.
No win.
And
We still get them, it's just more virtually now.
but for the last, as long as I can remember, and since we changed spring break to the end of the fourth 9 weeks, everybody on the calendar committee has a lifetime commitment because we just think they're doing such a wonderful job. And it is one of those committees that once, as Melissa has found out, once you're on the committee, I think she made the bad judgment of offering a suggestion one time, and so they put her on the committee. But it was a good move.
You are so right, Ms. Henry. I have tried to encourage more folks to be a part of this committee, and to which they turn a blind eye. Now when they see me, they walk in a different direction. But it is very rewarding when it all works out in the end. But there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it, recognizing there are some guiding principles, Madam Chair, and working within the confines of the region and making certain everyone in the region is on the same page in terms of our non-negotiables. Then working through that process as a whole. And I know eventually, in an ideal world, we would like to have the peninsula and Tidewater all on the same page. But right now, we're working within what we know will work and how we have been working for the past few years. We'll also address, hopefully within the presentation or maybe during some of the questions, the inevitable piece about the pre-Labor Day start and some questions and thoughts behind that piece as well. So we know that it's going to come up, and we want to make certain we address it for the board as well as the community as well.
Well, we thank you for being proactive.
Yes, ma'am. Want me to share some more things?
Well,
I think we're just about there.
It's been 16 years.
Since I moved to Hampton.
Ms. Powell Riedel says it's been 16 years since she's moved to Hampton. Have you been on here since you moved here?
she's been on it for 16
Dr.
years.
Haynes, you can warn people if they offer too many heated suggestions, they'll get appointed to the committee.
Oh, that is one of the things we do. Some of the more vocal folks, we actually say, well, that's a great idea. You give great input. We would like for you to join us on the calendar committee. And some take us up on that offer.
Or perhaps.
I feel the need to let everybody know the calendar committee, all jokes aside, we've actually streamlined it a lot recently. We're doing a lot more virtual meetings. We have ways for people to comment virtually. And we do have a lot of new people on the committee this year. So for anybody watching at home, yeah, we would love to have you, and it's not that bad.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, you ready?
Looks like we're ready.
And if it were really that bad, I wouldn't come here once a year on Wednesdays to share the lovely calendar with you. I enjoy my job.
Great.
Both in the classroom and on the calendar committee. So what we worked to accomplish this year was threefold. We recommended a 2-year calendar that supports continuous improvement of student achievement and professional learning for employees. We reviewed the feedback on the 2020, 2021, and 2021-2022 calendars, and we continue to support the regional school calendar agreement. We had several people on our committee, including parents, teachers, support personnel, community members, and administrators. I'd like to take this time to present our members to you, and if any of them are here, please stand. There were several important factors we had to consider when creating the calendar. They included developing a calendar that includes the Code of Virginia requirements as well as school division considerations, exploring the regional impact that our calendar will have, and providing for school closing due to severe inclement weather, professional learning days and growth, parent-teacher conferences, school learning plan days, related activities, teacher work days, and breaks. Here you can see the process that we followed to develop the calendar. We met beginning in November. We incorporated the regional calendar decisions. We publicized proposed calendars and solicited feedback. The regional calendar survey went out in September. The Peninsula School Division sent out the regional calendar survey to their stakeholders to gauge the interest in starting school prior to Labor Day. The Hampton City Schools website and email. We received and reviewed this feedback from Hampton City Schools staff and parents, and we made adjustments where needed. The highlights of the 2020-2021 calendar are as follows. It projects instructional time and non-instructional days for the next 2 years. It builds in 6 early release days for elementary and middle school students, which is 2 hours earlier. It builds in 2 early dismissal days for all students. All staff work normal hours with afternoon PD. This will allow us to align with the regional calendar committee on early dismissals. There are several key points about this calendar, including it includes our 7 pre-service days for school learning plan, professional development, and teacher work days. It provides a half-day division-wide professional development for elementary, middle, and high school in November. It provides 1 regional professional development day at the end of the first semester, and it provides 1 unencumbered teacher work day at the end of the first semester. There are several additional benefits to this calendar. Firstly, because we are aligned with the regional calendar in terms of start date, Thanksgiving date, winter break, spring break, and the January Professional Development Day, it accommodates the needs of Hampton's families who are affected by neighboring divisions' calendars across the peninsula. It provides for one bank day of student instructional time for inclement weather, and additional missed days will be made up at the superintendent's discretion. There are 2 early close days for all students and Hampton City Schools employees, during which all schools and offices will close 2 hours early. These include February 12th, 2021 and May 28th, 2021. And this calendar also maintains spring break as the first full week in April. And at this time, we would be happy to address any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from any board members? Yes, Ms. Smith.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about, I saw how the Virginia Beach School Board saw that 2021-22 calendar, Rosh Hashanah, is actually the first day of school. Is that something y'all have considered, or how that affects our population? Or?
Yeah, so as we build the calendar, we are always sensitive to the fact that families may have needs for specific holidays germane to their family traditions, and we accommodate those, and those are handled within the schools.
So there's not any consideration of changing the calendar or anything for that, or?
Not at this time, no. And I will say, just as the person who answers the calendar email, I have yet to receive any emails from any of the stakeholders regarding that.
Well, that's good to know. And yeah, just something to keep aware of that might start popping up. You never know.
Yes.
And then my other question was, there's only one banked instructional day for inclement weather. Is that typically enough, or it feels like we're always having to go back into the bringing days back? Should there be more? Or?
Right. So as we've aligned more and more with the regional calendar and with what our parents and staff members have been giving us in feedback, there's been a prioritization of having that Wednesday before Thanksgiving off, as well as the 2 full weeks at winter break. And so that's why we've gone down to the 1 instructional day. Otherwise, we'd be extending later into June. So it's working with the regional calendar committee, and that's why we've only have that 1 instructional banked day at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Karnick.
Has there been any consideration for the involvement of the Hampton City Schools student representative on the calendar planning work team?
You are so welcome to join us anytime.
Well, I won't be here forever, but I'll see what I can.
Yes, yeah, I would love if you would pass on to your successor. I would absolutely love to have a student representative on the calendar work committee. That would be fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point. Anyone else? You talk about the regional calendar, and just so everybody listening can be clear, would you name the school divisions you were talking about?
Absolutely. It's all the ones that share the New Horizons Center. So it's us, Newport News, Williamsburg, James City County, York, Poquoson, and Gloucester.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you again. Wonderful job.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes the report as it relates to the proposed school calendar for 2020 and 2021, and also you have the planning calendar as well. Our next presentation is that of our proposed budget, and I will ask Ms. Dortch, our Chief Financial Officer, to come forward, and I'll start the presentation, and we will jointly share in terms of presenting this year's proposed budget to the board as well. I said to Ms. Dortch that this is my 5th budget presentation here in Hampton, and also when considering other school divisions, that this is the 13th. This is number 13, I think, in terms of budget presentations. And so I said to Ms. Dortch, certainly you would like to share, and so forth. So she's going to take a deeper dive in some of the areas, and certainly from a place of expertise as well. And I want to highlight the hard work of Ms. Dortch and her team, as well as members of the division leadership team and human resources and our principals at the building level as well, and support staff there in helping to prepare this particular budget. So thank you for your leadership. So we'll just focus our attention, and we're delighted to be able to present to you what we consider to be a balanced budget for fiscal year 2021. That really focuses on employee compensation, teacher retention, as well as a strong benefits package. And so let's move into the process as it relates to the FY 2021 budget development process. In particular, we really started this process back in August. Relative to developing the budget. And so the time frame typically will move us from August to the end of June, when we get an opportunity to post the board's adopted budget. And so it's a pretty intensive process. I want to highlight, if you look at the various aspects of the planning and the development process, of course, we have the planning in August and September. It's the budget development calendar, and then we go from budget development calendar to budget development manual, to then certainly identifying from the board and asking you to share with us your priorities in the development of the budget. If you look at the time frame relative to October and November, we then move into department budget requests, non-payroll, salary and benefits. We start to look at those particular projections. We also look at revenue projections and enrollment projections during the months of October through December. And then we move to January through March, where we have the budget committee meetings, budget presentation, public hearings, school board approval that we make to the board and ask for your consideration. And then the April through May time frame, where we present to members of City Council based upon the school board's approved or adopted budget. And then in May, the City Council and their approval, where they then return the budget back to the school board. And then in June, we try to spend time, we want to import all of the data that we have in terms of the budget, and then we start to upload so that we're ready for July the 1st in terms of expenditures and starting a new fiscal year. Next section, in terms of school board priorities, you're quite familiar with your priorities that you submitted around Academies of Hampton, student achievement, class size, competitive compensation was a priority, teacher retention, and then facilities and capital improvements as well. The next slide. And so, I think one of the things that I will say when we consider your priorities, they're always anchored in the focus areas of the strategic plan as a driver in making decisions relative to the budget. And you really use the strategic plan, and we likewise use the strategic plan as a driver in making decisions as a vetting process for the budget. So the recommended budget includes 5 separate funds that we'll present this evening to you. And that's the school operating fund. We refer to that as Fund 50. It is certainly the largest fund for the school division. And it is used to account for all financial resources except those required to be accounted for in another fund. We will also present to you the Food and Nutritional Services Fund, which is considered Fund 51, and it's used to account for the school food cafeteria operations across the school division. Reimbursable Projects Fund, or we refer to that as Fund 60, it is used to account for projects that are 100% self-supporting and include all grants awarded to the school division as well. And then we have the Rental Income Fund, or Fund 65, and that's used to account for activity that's associated with rental spaces within the school division. And then finally, the Athletic Fund, or Fund 64, and that's used to account for activity for all of the interscholastic sports within our school division as well. Our next slide, the superintendent's recommended budget. The total FY 2020-2021 recommended budget is for all 5 funds, and it accounts for $262 million in terms of the overall budget. This is 6.73% or $16.5 million more than the FY 2020 budget. And so at this time, Ms. Dortch will take us forward and really spend some time in terms of a deeper dive relative to this.
Yes. Good evening, Madam Chair, Cherry, Vice Chair Kilgore, school board members, the Hampton community. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for that introduction. So as we take a deeper dive into our recommended budget for next year, we're actually going to start backwards with our athletics fund, and then we'll end with our school operating fund, Fund 50. So taking a look at the athletics fund, Fund 94, the total proposed budget is a little over $591,000. The revenues that make up the athletics fund come from ticket sales at our gated sports events, and then also funding is received in athletics from our school operating fund. The revenues are then utilized for major expenditures such as officials and security, and then for our athletic materials and supplies. So when we're looking at the athletics fund, some of the major changes from the current budget year, we are actually recommending to the school board to move our concession operations from reimbursable projects or Fund 60 to the athletics fund. And additionally, we are recommending additional funding from the school operating fund to provide funding for increased athletic insurance, and then also to fund the new volleyball program that will be at our middle and pre-K 8 schools. Now, the introduction of the volleyball program, this helps in supporting our division goals around ensuring that middle school students are involved in at least one extracurricular activity with the mentorship program, a component. Within each middle and pre-K 8, there'll be both a boys and a girls volleyball team, and they'll participate in one season and have a tournament style play at the end. Moving to our rental income or Fund 65 fund, the total proposed budget is a little over $172,000. And the revenue within this fund is generated from rental space that we have within the division. Most of that revenue is then utilized for repairs and maintenance, and we also use it to help with utility costs within rental spaces as well. You will notice that there is a slight increase that's expected for next school year, but that is being driven by an additional rental agreement that we have with one of our custodial companies at Merrimack. Then moving to our reimbursable projects, Fund 60, the proposed budget is a little over $22.5 million. And the majority of the revenue within reimbursable projects is related to our federal grant programs. And you'll see that the expenditures are mostly allocated for salaries and fringe benefits. Now, when we are preparing the budget for the reimbursable projects, we look at what current programs we have in place now, and we make an assumption that those programs will continue. But we also look at what our projected carry forward would be going into the next school year for those grant programs that span over multiple years. So included within this recommendation, along with moving concessions to the athletics fund, we are also making a recommendation to also move the academic school year for the governor's program, the individualized student alternative educational plan, the mentor teacher program, and our CPR programs. We're recommending to move those programs to our school operating fund. The impact to Fund 50 would be 0. So now moving to our food and nutrition services, or Fund 51. The proposed budget is a little over $12.2 million. And you'll see that this is approximately 3% more, or $353,000 than our current budget. So when looking at our Food and Nutrition Services Fund, the majority of our revenues are received from the federal government. So on a daily basis, we serve over 12,000 lunches and over 7,200 breakfasts to our young people. And when we serve these meals, it's important to know that for the USDA, in order for a meal to be reimbursable, you have to have certain components within the meal. So if you look on this slide in the bottom middle, you'll see one of the meals that we currently served at one of our elementary schools. Now, looking at this meal, you'll see an apple and a fruit cup. That's our fruit component. Then you'll see broccoli. That's our vegetable component. Milk. That's the third component. And then pizza, that actually satisfies both our grain requirement and our meat or meat alternative requirement. So together you have all 5 components of a reimbursable meal. Now, the USDA also has a provision called offer versus serve, where we can serve 3 out of those 5 components. So if we look at that same meal, let's say that a student wanted just the pizza, that would be our grain and our meat or meat alternative, and fruit, those 3 components would still be eligible for a reimbursable meal. But let's take this same meal that was served and let's only include the pizza and the milk. So we have our grain component, we have our meat or meat alternative, and we have milk. But because we don't have a fruit or a vegetable, then that meal would not be reimbursable under the USDA. So this meal and the many other meals that we serve our young people, those meals then turn into revenue under the National School Lunch and National School Breakfast Program. Now, we also serve our young people meals beyond the school day. So we also participate in the after-school snack program, and we also, actually call it after-school fuel or supper. And then we also provide food to our young people during the summer months as well. So we partner with the City of Hampton's Parks and Recreation Department in providing food at the different feeding sites throughout the City of Hampton. And our own Food and Nutrition Services Department, they also serve as a feeding site as well. So if there's any students in the summer who are up to the age of 18, they can go eat at the Patriot Center or any feeding site throughout the City of Hampton for free for lunch. And if, for example, if they had a cousin that came to visit from North Carolina, that person as well, as long as they're up to the age of 18, they can come and receive a free lunch meal as well. And then lastly, we do also offer breakfast for free during our summer school program as well. The school division also participates in the USDA's Community Eligibility Provision, or CEP program. And we have been participating in this program since the 2015-2016 school year. And we currently have 14 sites. Now, based on information that's currently available to us, we are anticipating that the number of students who will be directly approved for free lunch, we are projecting that that number is going to increase for next school year. And that increase is being driven by a new state database that was released back in November of 2019. And based on that information, we are recommending to expand our CEP program to both Phoebus, Forest Elementary, and also the Alternative Learning Center. That would in turn increase our participating sites from 14 to 17 for next school year. And there's a list of all of the sites on this slide. So because the cost of food continues to increase, we are projecting that the average cost currently for a breakfast meal has increased from 98 cents to $1.10. And because of that increase, we are recommending to the school board an increase to our breakfast price from $1 to $1.10. Based on information that we currently have from our surrounding school divisions, with the increase of 10 cents, we would still be the lowest in the region when compared to other school divisions that charge for breakfast. We are not recommending an increase in our school lunch prices for next school year. So looking at the food and nutrition services expenditures, we are recommending a 2% compensation increase for all food and nutrition services staff. In addition to the 2% raise, we are also recommending a $1.83 increase per hour for all cafeteria staff. This will also ensure that our minimum hourly rate for cafeteria staff is at least $10 going forward. Then we're also recommending a $2 per hour increase for cafeteria managers, and then a $1 per hour increase for secretaries and maintenance staff within food and nutrition services. Then, as I mentioned earlier, we are projecting our food costs to increase, and currently that estimate is around $111,000. And to budget, to make sure that we balance this budget, we are recommending the elimination of 14 vacant cafeteria staff positions. So with that, I will turn it back over to Dr. Smith.
Okay, so now we'll give our attention to the school operating fund, which we refer to as Fund 50. And at a glance, you will see that it's certainly a little over $226 million. And it really includes a 2% compensation increase at a cost of $2.9 million. Health insurance contribution increase for the division at a cost of $1.3 million. And also the Virginia Retirement Systems contribution increase at a cost of a little over $500,000, and $3.3 million for market adjustments for teachers as well as for support staff as well.
So looking at the overall Fund 50 or school operating budget, it is projected to increase by $15.3 million or 7.25%. All revenue that is proposed for next year is required by state law to be allocated across expenditure classifications. So you'll see on this slide that all revenue is allocated within instruction, administration, attendance, and health, transportation, operations and maintenance, technology, and debt and fund transfers. And new this year, we are recommending to the school board to also report a non-instructional operations classification. And this is to make sure that we better align ourselves with the annual school report that we have to send to the Virginia Department of Education. And that would account for and show all of our pharmacy and wellness center expenditures. Currently, we budget those expenditures within the administration, attendance, and health classification. So this just will align us with the annual school report. So as we look at state funds and state sales tax, they actually represent 63% of our total revenue within Fund 50. And the revenue projections that we have for the state, they are based on the governor's proposed budget within this presentation. So state funds, they're driven by two main drivers. One being the local composite index, which this is a calculation that's used by the state to determine a locality's ability to pay for the standards of quality or SOQ costs. And then also we have the March 31st average daily membership. So for next school year, the state has calculated that our LCI, or local composite index, will increase to 0.2743. Now the LCI can be anywhere from 0 to 0.8 as a gauge. Then looking at our average daily membership projection for next year, we are estimating that it will increase by 575 students, and that will take us up to 19,030. Taking all of that information into effect, under the governor's budget, we are proposed to receive $143.6 million in state funds and state sales tax. Now, this is an increase over the fiscal year 20, or our current budget of $13.6 million. There's a breakout that shows what makes up that $13.6 million, and you'll see that most of that increase is driven by our standards of quality programs. And one of the larger programs within SOQ is Basic Aid. So under the governor's budget, not only is basic aid driven by average daily membership, which we are projecting to increase, it's also driven by per pupil amounts that the state sets. So under the governor's budget, basic aid is proposed to increase from around $5,500 to up to $6,100. So that's driving a lot of the increase for state funds for next year. Looking at our local funds, they represent approximately 34% of our Fund 50 budget. And we actually receive funding from the City of Hampton based on a funding formula where they share 61.83% of residential, personal property, and utility taxes with the school division. We collaborate with the City of Hampton throughout the entire budget development process, and based on current projections provided, the local contribution is estimated to be $76.9 million for next year. Now, this includes one-time funds for our Academies of Hampton transformation of around $380,000. And in total, this will be a $1.3 million increase over our current local contribution. Federal and other miscellaneous revenue, they represent the remaining 3% of our Fund 50 budget. And our federal revenue comes from federal impact aid and our JROTC program, and it's projected to be $810,000 for next school year. Then looking at our other miscellaneous revenue is projected to be $5 million for next school year, with the three main drivers being our pharmacy center, Medicaid reimbursements, and indirect cost revenue from the school food and nutrition services, and also our federal grant programs. Now, not only does the state require us to allocate our revenue by expenditure classifications, but we also are required to further allocate our funds by expenditure objects or types. Now, this is a breakout of all of our expenditure types, and you'll see that salaries and fringe benefits represent $180 million of our total budget, and that's approximately 80% of the Fund 50 budget. So looking at health insurance, which is a part of that 80%, our health insurance is projected to increase by 5.3% next year. We are recommending to the school board that we do not pass on that increase or any portion of that increase to our employees, and we are recommending to absorb as a division $1.3 million to cover the increase. Then looking at the Virginia retirement system and other pension changes, the employer rates for VRS are going to go up. They're required by VRS in the state, and that is going to cost the division an additional $555,000. I do want to make note that there's not going to be an increase to the employee's contribution for VRS. And then additionally, the Hampton Employees Retirement System, or HERS pension, which is closed, our contribution will increase by about $60,000 for next year. So that is a look at what our fringe benefits changes would be going forward. And that is before any compensation recommendations. So I will turn it back over to Dr. Smith to begin our discussion about compensation.
So I think the next slide will really take an opportunity to look at the compensation increase. And I would like to just really start with, if you look at FY 16 and 17, you will see that during that particular year, the board provided a 3% compensation increase. And then if you look at year 17 and 18, that fiscal year, it was 2%. And then if you look at 18 and 19, it was another 2% salary compensation increase. And then in FY 19 and 20, 3%. And of course, for next year, the next fiscal year, we're proposing a 2% increase. And so the sum total, you will note, if the board adopts this budget based upon the priority that you set in terms of compensation as an area of focus, that starting with FY 16-17, that we would have had a total increase of 12% when we look at the overall competitive salary component of the budget.
This budget, again, as Ms. Storch has already said, we have included a 2% unencumbered salary increase for all employees for the proposed FY 2021 budget. And again, since FY 2017, the gross salaries would have increased by 12% if the FY 2021 proposed budget raise is approved. And again, this goes back to the area of focusing on when we look at maintaining current employees, we want to remain competitive, but we also want to attract and focus on continued development as well. So this particular slide gives us a representation of that. The next slide. So in addition to the 2% raise, we're recommending a $1.4 million investment to the teacher salary scale by adding $500 to steps 1 through 14 and $1,000 to steps 15 through 29. So I think, again, what's so important here is to really focus on that in addition to the 2% compensation, unencumbered compensation increase, that there would be another $1.4 million investment in the teacher salary scale. So this would bring our total investment to the teacher salary scale to $3 million since fiscal year 2017.
So to look at some examples of what these recommendations would be for a teacher within our school division. So if we look at the first example, teacher A, this is assuming the teacher is on step 13 and receiving a salary of $48,982. With the recommendation of a 2% compensation increase and $500 being added to steps 1 through 14, teacher A would see an increase of $1,480 to their salary for next school year. And then, of course, all the salaries that we pay, we also pay for fringe benefits on top of those amounts. So the total compensation package for teacher A would be $73,054. Now, if we look at teacher B, this teacher is on step 25 and receiving a salary of $55,775. With the same recommendations, this teacher would see an additional $2,116 next school year, taking their salary to $57,891. And again, when you include the benefits the division pays on behalf of teacher B, this would be a total compensation package of $82,476.
And so let's take a look. Certainly, we've spent some time talking about the teacher salary scale and that compensation overall in terms of 2%. But again, let's look at the support staff salary adjustments in the area of attract, develop, and retain exceptional staff as well. And so if you will note here that in addition to the teacher salary scale and the overall 2% compensation increase, we're proposing that bus drivers and bus attendants would receive an additional $2 per hour. You'll see the cost there is $644,000. $1.04 in terms of the bus attendant would be for a minimum wage adjustment in terms of bus attendants. Also, we're recommending an additional $1.50 per hour. The cost there, $183,000 for school technology specialists, school maintenance staff, and auto mechanics. Again, when we think and take into consideration, in particular, the areas, and these are some of the hard-to-fill areas as well. Additionally, we're asking for and proposing a $1 per hour increase for instructional assistants, secretaries, and school security officers at a cost of $657,000. Instructional coaches and administrators, it's so important that we remain competitive at all levels. And so you will see the cost of $354,000 in those particular adjustments. And then minimum wage adjustments Phase 1, $10 per hour, and we've calculated that in to make certain that we're addressing the cafeteria monitors and the list that you have there in terms of the health clerk, inventory, control clerk, processing clerk, and so forth, as outlined on the slide there, to ensure that we're making those adjustments. And we use the $10 minimum wage as our base with this proposed budget.
So also included in the budget, we have recommendations for reclassifications and supplement changes. And this really goes back to the collaboration that we have with our department heads and our principals when it relates to these recommendations. So within the Fund 50 budget, we are also recommending an increase to the summer school teacher rate from $25 to $30 per hour. Also extending the contract days for high school band directors and school finance officers at our middle and pre-K-8 schools from 200 to 220 days. Also increasing the daily hours for office assistants from 3 to 5 hours per day. Then we also looked at reclassifications from part-time to full-time, and this impacts 2 positions. And then also adjustments to compensation for 5 positions just based on increased job responsibilities. We are also recommending an increase to the middle school counselor director stipend up to $820, adding a coaching stipend for the new volleyball program at the middle and pre-K-8 schools. And then lastly, increasing our athletic coaching and instructional supplements by 12%. And you'll remember that we took a reduction of 25% during the recession, so this would restore approximately 50% of that reduction. So kind of moving along in our presentation, the Virginia Preschool Initiative, within the governor's budget, it also included additional investments in early childhood education. And for next school year, we will receive 635 pre-K slots. Now this will be an increase of 101 students. Now, to make sure that we maintain our class sizes at a max of 18, we are recommending adding 5 preschool teachers and also 5 instructional assistants for the pre-K classrooms. Additional state funding would also go to implementing a new pre-K curriculum and required classroom observations. And there's also state funding to help with waiting lists for the pre-K program as well. So along with the 5 preschool teachers and the 5 instructional assistants, they are included in the total position change of 73.12 positions. But I want to make sure to note that of the total change in positions, 37.12 of the change is related to fiscal year 2020 positions that were added, and this was done to make sure that we were meeting the needs based on increased enrollment, which that trend is starting now, but then also make sure we're meeting our students' needs, especially those around English language learners, and also restructuring our positions. And for more detail on all of the position changes within the proposed budget book, that can be found on page, I believe it's 18. Yes, page 18. So some of the main highlights from the position changes include an additional 23.12 teachers, 17 instructional assistants, 2 school social workers, 1 school psychologist, 1 library technician, 20 cafeteria monitors, and 5 support positions, and 4 school counselors. With the addition of the 4 counselors, that will ensure that we will have a counselor to pupil ratio of at least 375 to 1 at our elementary level, then 325 to 1 at the middle school level, and then 300 to 1 at the high school level. Now, we've discussed all of the changes to the 80% of the Fund 50 budget. So before we end our presentation, we want to look at the remaining 20%, which represents our non-personnel costs. So instructional supplies are projected to increase, and this is in line with increased enrollment. We are projecting additional funding from the state from our Virginia e-learning backpack program. Then we also made sure to right size or adjust our budget based on spending trends for contracted medical services for students with disabilities, and also our substitute teacher costs, which we actually outsource. Then for the Academies of Hampton budget, it is projected to be approximately $1 million for next school year. But we wanted to note that we did have to remove the one-time state funds that the General Assembly gave us for fiscal year 20. We also have incorporated that increased investment for one-time funds from the city. And then we also repurposed approximately $136,000, and that will help us to continue to transform our learning spaces. And then additionally, we have a contingency within our budget to protect our extended learning program. And this program provides opportunities for our high school students in the summer and on the weekends, just to provide them with real life project-based learning. So in the event that state funding is decreased, we want to make sure that we still can continue that program as it is in place currently. So I'll let Dr. Smith bring it home.
So finally, I think that this is a good representation. So I want to thank you, Ms. Dortch, in terms of providing this summary as it relates to the strategic plan. So really the recommended budget for the school operating fund invest an additional $15 million for continuing the fulfillment of our strategic plan, the 2020 vision for the future. An additional $8.6 million would be invested in attracting, developing, and retaining an exceptional staff. An additional $5.3 million in terms of an investment in maximizing every child's learning. An additional $800,000 as an investment in continuing to create safe, nurturing environments. An additional $400,000 as an investment in maintaining effective, efficient, and innovative support systems. And finally, an additional $80,000 in terms of dollars would be invested in managing fiscal resources effectively and efficiently. So this gives a good representation, I think, of the strategic plan, the 2020 vision for the future, and captures the recommendations and aligns those particular recommendations to the goal areas, the major focus areas of the strategic plan as an additional investment. So thank you. And you want to talk about next steps?
Yes, so next steps in the budget development process will be the release of the General Assembly's budget. They are scheduled to end on March 7th, so we are hoping that we get a final state budget soon. Based on that budget, we will look to see whatever changes are needed and present those back to the school board and update this proposal as needed. Then also we have public hearings that are scheduled here at Jones on March the 11th and March 18th at 6:30, and that's for the community to come out. And then the school board is scheduled to vote on this recommended budget on March 25th. And then lastly, before we end and open up the presentation for questions, I want to give a special thanks, Dr. Smith and I, to the division leadership team. And if you all can stand, I would appreciate it. So our division leadership team, members of our finance department, members of food and nutrition services and athletics, please stand. And then I also want to thank all of our department heads, the principals, and our secretaries and our administrative assistants, because this truly is a collaborative effort when it comes to developing our budget. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, if I could just say, I know that we may have one question for Fund 94 in terms of Miss Beth Mayer. So she may. I'm just kidding, Miss Beth. She doesn't like it.
I know. She hates it. She got up. She rose
Thank
up.
you, Beth.
She rose up. Thank you, Ms. Dortch and Dr. Smith. This was an outstanding and clear-cut presentation in terms of what we're looking at for our budget. Are there any questions from board members? Let's start with Ms. Henry.
Well, this was a great presentation, Ms. Dortch. You just give me confidence all the time that, you know, it's nice to be a CPA and know what you're doing. It's wonderful. I think also that at our desk we had this, which is available to the public and to the members of the staff, and it just is a nice short. If you don't like reading from a screen, this is the nuts and bolts of the budget, and it's very helpful. Thank you very much. I just have to say, Dr. Smith, that this may be your 13th budget, but this will be the 16th one I've voted on as a board member. And at the very beginning, where there was some money, it was nice, and then there were those years when there was no money and it was not nice. It was not a happy occasion, and this is a terrifically happy occasion because we have increased money from the state, because we have increased enrollment that's driving that increased money from the state. That because of your fiscal care, we have the ability to give everyone a raise, and that means everyone, when the state only funds teachers most of the time, SOQ positions. They don't fund everybody else, and the everybody else, as Dr. Smith pointed out in his remarks earlier, are very important. It makes me very happy that not only are teachers getting a raise again, but they're getting a salary adjustment again, which is really important to get that salary scale competitive from beginning to end. And I'm really happy that we can say that while health insurance costs are going up everywhere, they're going up less in Hampton because of good planning and the institution of the Wellness Center and the pharmacy that not only cuts costs for our teachers tremendously, but it's cut our insurance rate raise. Everybody's has gone up, but ours is going up less. And I'm so pleased that we're able, because again of careful finance management on your part, to not have to pass on that increased health cost to our teachers. And finally, we're just so excited that we're able to fund a $10 minimum for everybody who works so hard for us. I think of all the years in food service that we have wonderful ladies. I visited a cafeteria the other day, and they had up their stuff for Dr. Seuss, and they were celebrating along with the students Read Across America. They work so hard every day, and they're going to have a $10 minimum, and that we're giving all of our staff a 2% raise, and so many of folks in critical areas an additional salary adjustment. So I'm just happy all over the place. This is celebrating Dr. Smith is nice, but we've done that already. But celebrating
Move on to the money now.
money for everybody is something really to be excited about. And thank goodness for the state legislature in thinking that, and we need to thank all of our representatives, guys, all of them who voted for this or are going to vote for this, for the state support and for our local support from City Council. And the wonderful thing is that the good things in Hampton City Schools are being recognized, and the enrollment's going up, and that makes this possible. So it's a happy, happy, happy night. And thanks for a wonderful job, Ms. Dortch.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Ms. Henry. I think, Ms. Dortch, you might want to take Ms. Henry on the road as the PR summary person, because I tell you, she hyped it up, but we are very, very excited. You did a great job on that.
I have lived through the bad times.
And now it's good times. Any other comments?
I do have a comment, Madam Chair, and it's directed to Beth Meir. So Beth, you can come to the podium, and I want to express my sincere appreciation in your efforts to ensure that we consider intramural sports on the middle school level. As you know, former Vice Chair Dave Pearson was a fierce advocate and supporter of intramural sports in the middle school area, because a gap was present. And with us making sure that our middle school kids have access to intramural sports, starting with volleyball and next moving to basketball and so forth, it demonstrates an investment in our youth. As you know that at that age, that's where our young people start making decisions in regards to being in the streets or being in school or in their homes. And now we have a place that our young people that are in middle school will be able to reside and receive that additional support, not just recreationally, because I know that Dr. Smith's brain is churning about additional support that we can provide to our young people once they're participating in the intramural sports. So I know I can't speak on behalf of Dave, but I can tell you he's extremely happy with your decision, and just thank you.
I have to thank the school board and Dr. Smith. I mean, this has been a dream of mine since I started this position. My goal was to go ahead and try to get middle school athletics back. It's so important. And I just appreciate, this is a dream budget for me. So we're ready to go.
Order for a minute, Madam Chairman.
Yes, you may, Ms. Henry.
The other thing in Ms. Mayor's budget that's so exciting is insurance for all sports participants. And that is terrifically exciting.
That was Ms. Storch, and Dr. Smith. I think it's a great idea. And we're working with Joe Saunders at Risk Management, make sure that it happens.
Okay. Any other comments from board members this way? Yes, Ms. Smith.
I just got to say, I feel so blessed to be in this interim position, because not only am I getting a little glimpse of what it's like to work with one of the top 4 out of 13,500 superintendents in the nation, but I also get to experience for the first time ever what a growing budget is like, and it feels really good, really, really good. It's nice to see so many things getting brought back that we had to drastically cut years ago. It just feels really, really, really good. And to have the compensation for all these levels of staff that is so much needed, and it's never enough.
That's wonderful.
But it's so nice to be able to give a nice chunk back. That it's just wonderful. So thank you. But I do have one question, because I can't go through a presentation without a question.
Go right ahead.
Which is why
Dr.
we wanted
Smith
you on this board.
So why, for the middle school sports, which I love that too, why was volleyball the sport of choice?
That I have been asked that so many times, and the main reason is that it's such a big undertaking, and we have to rely on the middle school principals and the staff, and I didn't want to start with something. We knew that track was going to be in the fall, volleyball is going to be in the winter, and then basketball will be in the spring. So it's off of what high school does. And you know how I am during football season. I'm like a mad lady. So I didn't want to do it right away and start with track, because I wanted to give it my undivided attention. I don't want to have any problems. So that's the main reason.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Dr. Mason.
Well, first of all, once again, just as my colleagues have shared, excellent job preparing this budget. We are smiling at what we're able to see, but I especially would like to give kudos, because looking at the position changes, you all know that mental health and social emotional learning is my passion, and what I think is absolutely necessary when we talk about the success of children, making sure that they are prepared and ready from a mental and social emotional perspective. And so looking at the position changes that's happening, I can see where the thought has really gone into making sure that we're including that portion and that component in this budget. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Mason. Yes, Mr. Karnick.
Thank you, Ms. Dortch. Thank you, Ms. Mayor. This is really encouraging. This is really exciting stuff. From the top line, 2% compensation increase for all instructional staff. That will put us on a level to compete regionally and across the peninsula and across the state of Virginia, really, for personnel. That is something we need to be doing, and I'm glad that I'm seeing this. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Mr. Kilgore.
I also want to thank you for a great presentation. I've told you before that this is my 10th budget, so not as many as Ms. Henry, but I will tell you that behind the scenes, I like devouring the budget book, and maybe more than others, but
yes, sir.
I will say that this past year, the book was the best I'd ever seen it. And I think that led to this. I will also say that, like Ms. Smith said, when I first got on the board, I remember when we voted on the budget, there were people choked up and there were tears because we were having to make decisions and vote on decisions that hurt people. So to be in a situation like this where we're trying, even with this amount of money, it's still limited with what we want to do, and we have to make tough choices as to where it's distributed. But it feels a lot better to try to make choices where you're not cutting and hurting people. So I just want to say thank you again. It truly is a collaborative effort, and you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Dr. Woodhouse.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a wonderful and magnificent presentation on our budget. One of the things that I'm excited about is that since I've been on the board, we've had the privilege of seeing an increase in pay since I've been here. One of the things that I firmly believe is that increased enrollment means more money. It means more money coming from the state, it means more money coming from the federal government, and it also means more money coming from our local government also. And school improvement in academics means a growth in school enrollment. And so I think that a lot should be said about the increase that you have presented in school enrollment also. I just got to say it, 100% accreditation. And we've been constantly moving towards that since I've been on the board. And so we've seen the increase in enrollment. I think we're doing a fantastic job here in Hampton. And so we must give credence to where it's due, and that's Dr. Smith and the staff that he has working with him. You all are phenomenal. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Kilgore.
One more comment. I think it would be appropriate to also say, since we have one of our own up at the General Assembly, that I'd like to publicly thank Ms. Mugler for her efforts. I know she has been working very hard. She got placed on strategic committees about education because of her experience, and she went to work immediately, and we are reaping the benefits here in the 91st District because of her. So thanks to Ms. Mugler.
Okay. Again, I just want to ditto what my colleagues have said. I know it's not easy, and I have to give a shout out to the members of the division leadership team, because I know what that's like to sit in that, what we used to call the war room. I don't know if you all still call it that, do you?
We haven't called it that.
Okay. So you still call it that.
We still respond that way.
Exactly. Because some tough choices were made in even developing the budget along with the superintendent. And I'm honored that I was part of that for 17 years, because I got to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And like Mr. Kilgore said, there's nothing ugly about this budget. There's nothing bad about this budget. This budget is good, and I am so excited that everybody gets a piece of the pie. And the fact that we're able to do that percentage across the board, as Mr. Carnick said, for everybody, you know, that has always been a difficult thing to do because of funds. And the other piece is that you ended up with some people feeling less valued than others. But this budget is not the case. And I know that Miss Beth Mayer doesn't want to stand up again. She's hiding behind you. But I will say that I have to give kudos to Miss Mayer, because when I was here, Miss Mayer and I worked together. She came under the PR office. And one of the things she always was interested in, I know she talked about volleyball, but she always liked volleyball, I'm going to tell you. And we talked about it from the perspective of this. Not us, but there's always a focus, it seems, in school divisions on the revenue-producing sports. those that bring the money at the gates. But we had to look beyond that and look at how we could best utilize the talents of our students from a broad perspective. And I think that does a great job in getting us to the starting point with this. Secondly, I know we're going to have some happy coaches, because when they took that 25% hit, that was really difficult for them, Ms. Mayor. Am I correct in that?
And I just want to say a shout out to Dr. Haynes, because I mentioned that to him and I didn't know anything about it till I just saw it, and I'm so excited. Our coaches need that.
Well, you know what? I think all of us are excited, because even when they took that hit, they remained, our teams remained strong. They were all committed, and we were still winning.
Yes, we always
and you know, I'm still kind of bothered that we're the winning team, but we got to go to Southside to play, but that's a whole nother thing. But thank you to all of you. This is a fantastic, I don't know who could not be happy with this, Dr. Smith. I'm going to be real honest. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I ask
yes,
one
sir.
question? It's nagging me. The elimination of the 14 vacant cafeteria positions, can you sort of explain that a little bit, you know, how we're working with that?
Yes, so within the food and nutrition services budget, we wanted to make sure that we presented a balanced budget, because it's important for food and nutrition services to have at least 3 months of operating expenses within their fund balance. So we did not want to present a budget where we would eat into that or reduce that 3 months reserve. So in order to do that, we had to look at our unfilled vacant positions, and then based on the work from our director, Edwina Forrest, and also Gwen Manley, we came together and we said, you know, we can cut 14 vacant positions and still continue the great work of feeding all of our students in Hampton City Schools.
Okay. How much money is being saved, for lack of a better way to put it, with that 14 vacant positions being eliminated?
So it's between $100,000 to $200,000, but I can get the exact number.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think the key piece in that is that those positions were vacant.
Yes.
Yeah.
So great question, Dr. Woodhouse, in terms of what that translates into in terms of funds.
Right.
Any other comments or questions from board members? Yes, Mr. Karnick.
Just really quick, I wanted to get to know more about the technology positions that are being created. What are those 4 positions for?
Let's see. Which slide are you looking at, Paul? So I make sure I answer correctly.
The slides aren't available to us. I don't have the presentation available to me, so.
So for technology, we are proposing to increase the hourly rate. Positions-wise, we're not recommending an increase to the positions, but we are looking at increasing the salary, the hourly rate.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you guys again. I can only think of one thing. I used to have a friend who said, things are going so well, I'm scared. So I'm just going to say things are going well, and I don't mind being scared, Dr. Smith. Thank you so much.
We're all in this together, so yeah. So next year we will look forward to Ms. Dortch presenting the budget from beginning to end. So.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that concludes certainly the budget presentation. And now Ms. Dortch will move into the business operations with the financial report.
Can I take just 1 second?
Yes.
Ms. Gorel, this will be available tomorrow morning. Am I correct? Okay, thank you. On our website.
Madam Chair, if it is okay, I would like to go back to Paul's question to make sure that I answer that, because there are so many great changes in this budget. I was reminded that we are looking at adding 4 part-time digital technicians for the middle school, and this will help with our Chromebook initiative within the middle schools.
Thank you. Does that satisfy your question, Mr. Karnick?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, looking at our January 2020 monthly report, our revenues total $105 million, and this is a 3.6% increase over the January 2019 budget, with much of that increase being driven by additional state funds. Looking at our cumulative expenditures and encumbrances, they total $125 million, and this is 6.1% higher than our previous fiscal year. Included within the budget, you have a list of our transfers to and from the technology classification, and that completes our report for January 2020.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Deutsch?
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. That concludes superintendent and staff reports.
Again, thank you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you.
As we move to item number 5, the hearing of any delegations or presentation of any written communications or petitions, I have received none. Have you, Ms. Bowers?
No, I have not.
Thank you. Item 6, deliberation. It includes item 6.01, resolution for VSBA Business Honor Roll State Farm Insurance. 6.02, student fees for 2020-2021. And 6.03 has been added to deliberation 2020-2021 school calendar and 2021-2022 planning calendar. If I can take these separately, for 6.01, the resolution for VSBA Business Honor Roll, I'll ask our Vice Chair, Mr. Joe Kilgore, to please read that for everyone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It'd be my pleasure. This is the 2020 Virginia School Board Association Business Honor Roll resolution. Whereas public schools and local businesses are an integral part of this community, and whereas many local businesses play a crucial role in supporting our schools, and whereas the economic health of our community, state, and nation depend on a strong public school system, and whereas collaboration between local public schools and local businesses strengthens schools and the business community alike by providing a well-trained and highly educated workforce, and whereas an excellent public school system is vital to the quality of life in this community and fundamental to preserving a strong democratic society now and in the future, therefore be it resolved that the Hampton School Board names Mark Crump, State Farm Agent, to the Virginia School Board Association Business Honor Roll, showing appreciation for the ongoing support of this community's public schools. Your work around collecting school supplies for our students over the past 3 years has aided this community in focusing on the goal of providing the best public schools we can for every child who attends them.
Thank you, Mr. Kilgore. Are there any questions from board members about the resolution that was just read? Okay. We'll move to item 6.02, student fees for 2020-2021. Any questions from board members? And the last one, 6.03, 2020-2021 school calendar and 21-2022 planning calendar. Any questions? Okay, all 3 of these will be moved to action for our next meeting. As we move to item 7, next meetings, you heard Ms. Deutsch really do a good job in explaining the board's next meetings. The next actual meeting will be a budget hearing, and that budget hearing will take place Wednesday, March 11th. And then there will be a second budget hearing on Wednesday, March 18th. This board will be meeting every Wednesday in March. The meetings will take place at 6:30, and they will take place here at Jones Magnet Middle School. Then on March 25th, on that Wednesday, the board will vote on the budget. Moving to information items. I was going to announce something, but I think our Executive Director for Public Relations and Marketing would do a much better job. Hate to catch you on the spot, but you always know how to handle this. Could you just get up and just tell us about what happened at Bethel High School today? It's been all over the news, but somebody might not have seen it.
You're fine. I was just wondering where you were going with that. Well, thank you for the opportunity. This morning at Bethel, we had a wonderful event for our rising seniors, which are the cohort or the graduating class of 2021. We were able to pull off a surprise with Reebok and Allen Iverson, and they announced in collaboration that they will be covering the college application fees for the class of 2021, as well as each of those young people will receive Reebok sneakers. So it was a wonderful time that we all came together. The school board was there. We had city council and the mayor. We had a representative from Reebok. Allen Iverson himself had a video message for our young people. The really neat part of it is that we had 6 of our juniors that participated in a photo shoot about 2 weeks ago. They knew that they were doing it for the new shoe that Reebok is releasing. It was a great experience. They didn't know quite what they were doing it for, but they were part of the hero film and was presented to their classmates. So it was just a really great event this morning. And yes, thank you to the Daily Press for being there and covering it. We got coverage from Wavy, WVEC, and WTKR, and as well as national coverage. I've been in contact with our representative from Reebok, and I believe we've hit like 32 spots nationally.
Excellent, excellent. It was a live energy experience, wasn't it?
Mr. Saunders did a fantastic job.
Yes. In fact, Miss Monica Smith, time I walked in the door, she said, "I couldn't believe you kept that secret from me that long." I told her, Miss Gore said, "I better." So it really was an exciting time. Don't you agree, Dr. Smith?
It was absolutely an exciting time. And just think of the impact as it relates to our young people and their future. So we're grateful for that partnership.
Okay. And just an additional piece is that the school sent home a letter with each of those young people as they were leaving the auditorium, so that when they went home, their parent, and they're trying to explain it to their parents, it's at least written down for them exactly, how this is going to work.
I heard the principal, Mr. Saunders, say that. I thought that was excellent.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any information items from Superintendent?
Other than to say thank you to members of the board, thank you for the recognition and the staff and certainly all of the individuals who were present. I'm honored to serve here in Hampton, and I look forward to the future.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Any information items to come from board members? Yes, Ms. Smith.
We do have tomorrow morning, Downtown Hampton Child Development Center is having their annual fundraising breakfast, and it's always a wonderful event with well over 500 in attendance of just everybody there to celebrate the really young youth of our community. And it's just great to see all those partners come together. So that's all.
We'll be there. You'll see us there.
Oh, I will.
Any other comments? Information items? Yes, Mr. Carnick.
I think just reflecting on everything that we've seen in this meeting, from the most recent, the Reebok Allen Iverson event, to the budget that is proposed, to our recognition of Dr. Smith for his National Superintendent of the Year finalist status. It is a great day to be part of Hampton City Schools.
It really, really is. And I can say this. When I saw the paper about our book, great job. Just absolutely great job. Thank you so much. Okay. Yes, Dr. Mason.
I just want to make an announcement that it is actually National School Social Workers Week this week, and just want to thank our Hampton City Schools social workers for the excellent job that they do with our kids every day.
They do a fantastic job. Anybody else? There being no more business to come before this board, we adjourned.